Rising Yasho, and I'm your host, Yashodhara Datta, Dr. Yashodhara Datta. Forgive me if I'm not at my best today, because I have had quite a few sleepless nights, because I have been gathering and working very hard to gather material for this topic that I'm going to speak to you about today. I have been taking a course from Johns Hopkins University, which is an online course, but yeah, it has been quite a bit of a long few days for me, tiring few days. In fact, I shot this video yesterday too, but I had to cancel that video because I ended up looking so tired and exhausted in it, and I'm not very good at doing makeup, so I didn't know how to hide my exhaustion basically. So well, it's a very important topic that I thought I should address now as soon as possible, keeping in mind the current scenario that is going on in the country. A topic, an issue which we are almost taking for granted, almost we have taken it as something which happens. It is as if we have come to a terms of agreement that while it should not be happening, it does happen, and this is a way of life. I'm talking about gender-based violence and rape cases specifically against women. I'm sorry, I will be referring to my notes a little more than usual today, because there's quite a lot of information, and plus I have gotten less sleep, so my brain is not at the best form right now. Excuse me. Well, in the past few weeks, we have been continually hearing about a series of very unfortunate events that are taking place in Uttar Pradesh mostly, and rapes among lower caste women, or in women, amongst women in general, and very brutal rapes in fact, and cases which have shook the national consciousness. We have realized that nothing has really changed since 2012 Nirbhaya case. All the amendments that were made, all the fast track court, the fast track justice, nothing really has been really done for the case of women's safety. Apparently, we have realized that through the last recent few rapes that have happened in Uttar Pradesh. I'm talking about the Hathras case, which has really triggered the whole national outrage, but we are also unaware, other than the Hathras case, that there are quite a few cases which happened preceding it and after it also. There were cases from Mathura, Lakhimpur Kheri district, Balrampur district. As I had already mentioned in one of my social media videos, that we need to speak out now. We need to speak out now, and these women who have died in such pain, who have lost their lives in such unfortunate circumstances, we need to speak up now. We should assume that they are martyrs. They're martyrs for a greater cause, and we should use this time right now that we have to speak out and make this cause greater and achieve something greater out of the deaths of these women, these young women, little women. almost children. We should honor them by speaking out at least, and we should use this opportunity that we have right now to make the lives of other women in this country safer through these events. That is how we will be able to do something, make something out of the deaths that these women went through, the suffering that these women went through. I'll be talking about women's safety and gender-based violence, not only in the national but also a bit in a global context, because, well, women are not safe anywhere that they go around the world. They're not safe at all. So there are hardly any countries, maybe countries like Japan, which are at the bottom most list when it comes to dangerous countries for women, Scandinavian countries and Iceland, etc. But India has been listed as one of the top 5 countries, which is absolutely dangerous for women's lives in context of sexual and gender-based violence. So I should probably start this whole episode. First, I should warn you that this episode might become very long, and I might release this in 2 parts based on the duration, how long it takes me to narrate and speak to you about the whole thing. But I should start this episode with an incident which happened to me. And that was not the first sexual violation incident that happened to me, nor was that the last, nor can I even say now that any incident that happens to me will ever be the last, because I live in India, I live in Delhi, and often these things happen to women. If you ask 3 women if you've ever been violated sexually or harassed sexually, 1 of them will for sure say yes, they have. The percentage is that high, 33 to 35%. Women definitely go through issues of violence, sexual violence against them. So coming to the incident which happened to me, I was 18. I was newly I just passed school and I joined college, and like I said in my previous video, that I was in the NCC squadron, the NCC Corps, and I was a horse rider. And every year there's a selection of cadets who will represent their region. Our region was the Northeastern region squadron, and as a horse rider I was selected to represent NER in the Republic Day camp, which happens in New Delhi every January. I don't know about the 2021 January because of the pandemic, but yes, it does happen every year. And it is an event where all the cadets, NCC cadets from around the country, they come and compete on different aspects and different criteria, whether it is, so there are different divisions of the NCC. We were in the R&V division, which is the Remount and Veterinary Corps. There are there's the Air Division, there's the Navy Division, there's the Army Division. So everybody competes in different levels, basically. So I was there as a horse rider, and I was traveling from Guwahati to Delhi, and since this was a government-funded travel, and whole event was government funded, so you don't get the luxury of traveling in AC class train or AC class security, basically. So we were all, there were 2 coaches full of NCC cadets dressed in our full uniforms, which were our khaki uniforms with our badges and our position officer levels, basically. I was a under officer at that time. Later I graduated into a senior under officer. But so we were in our khaki uniforms. You must have seen NCC's cadets. They look almost like police people. So, and we were allotted those heavy combat jackets which prevent you from cold. You must have seen them on army people who are posted in really cold places like in Kashmir or the glaciers up there. So yeah, we had each been allotted one of those jackets to prevent us from the extreme cold, because it was 30th of December. We started on the 29th from Guwahati and it was the 30th, and we reached on the 31st of December 2010. Yeah, 2010. Basically it was 2009 and the camp was for 2010. So the camp was for 2010 January, basically. So I was traveling on train. So there were 2 coaches, one for the male cadets, one for the female cadets, and I was traveling with my female co-fellow cadets, and I was allotted a berth which was on the aisle side, the side berth, on the lower side berth. And it was the night before we reached Delhi, and it takes you almost 2.5 days to reach Delhi. So it was the final night, and we were somewhere in the middle of Uttar Pradesh, as I can assume, because we didn't have smartphones at that time, so I cannot tell you the exact location or the district that I was in when that happened to me. It was almost midnight and everybody was dozing off to sleep. Lights were being turned off, and I was reading a book to kill time. I mean, we didn't have smartphones back then, we didn't have Instagram or Facebook, much of it. So I was reading a book, and eventually, as the light was turned off in my compartment by the other girls, I switched to listening to some music, and eventually I fell asleep. So after a while of falling asleep, I woke up because there was a weight on top of me, a weight that I could feel on my chest, on my stomach. And I woke up with a shock, like in the darkness when there are few lights, very few lights somewhere. You can hardly make out what's really happening, who's really there, who's the person that was on top of me. But there was an absolutely unknown person. The sleeper coaches, if you have ever traveled by, you know that there are no real doors like the AC coaches do, and so anybody can walk in and out. So I was lying down, and that man was on top of me, and his mouth was on my mouth. I can still remember the taste of his saliva, his tongue probing inside my mouth, his hands trying to get inside my jacket. I was shocked, and it took me a couple of seconds to register what was really happening to me. And I could not scream, I could not do anything. I could just push that person off me. And as I pushed him off, I just remember his eyes. I don't remember his face because it was darkness, and So yeah, as I pushed him off, he ran off, and since their sleeper classes don't have any doors, he could easily run off from one coach to the other coach to the other coach, and just eventually probably disappear in the crowd. So I sat there for probably 10 to 15 minutes, unable to speak anything, unable to do anything or even cry at the least. I could not do anything. I was an absolute statue. My brain was trying to comprehend, trying to process what just happened to me in a coach full of NCC cadets, all dressed in our uniforms. So that does prove that attire is not a factor in rape, because I was dressed in uniform. So why, if you ask me why I didn't scream, why I didn't cause a chaos and wake everybody up, why I could not do that, there is an answer in science which I looked up, and there are certain neurochemicals which are released in your brain. So they are catecholamines, which are norepinephrine, your adrenaline basically, which triggers your flight or fight system, which gets triggered when you are in a moment of danger to your life, and you just have to make quick decisions. Your brain has to make quick decisions to whether to run and save your life or to stay and save your life, which one it is. And your cognitive function at that time is not the best. Your brain doesn't make the best judgments during that time. So when we say that women should be carrying, I carry a stun gun with me everywhere that I go, everywhere, because I've had so many incidents of sexual violation towards me that I do it. I have one with me all the time. But honestly, when you think about it, unless you're a trained professional, if you're just a plain normal woman, a non-violent woman, your brain will not function at its fullest capacity, nor will it make the best judgments at that moment. You might even forget that you have that weapon with you. You might even forget how to use it at that moment. You might use it in a wrong way at that moment, and it might just trigger back at you because your cognitive functions are impaired by a trauma such as a sexual violation or attempt at your life. So the second group that is released are the opiates, which opiate group, morphine basically. We know how morphine is used. It is used as a sedative, as a tranquilizer basically in psychiatric patients to calm them down. And what opiates, naturally synthesized opiates in your body does at that time is to calm you down, to reduce your emotional trauma of that moment, so that you do not do something out of the spur of moment and damage yourself even further. And that is why many rape victims cannot fight back, and they just shut off. And probably that's what happened to me. I just shut off. My brain just shut off. And the third one is corticosteroids. Corticosteroids are given to patients to reduce their inflammation in the body and to calm the body down, the reactions of the body basically, and that also causes tonic immobility or paralysis of the muscles, due to which many women or victims they become immobile during those incidents that are ongoing with them during the act. And yes, that was why I could not speak a word. I could not scream, I could not cry. I just sat there, wondering what happened to me, trying to understand what happened to me. It took me about at least 15 minutes to be able to get up, wear my boots, and go wake up a lady officer who was in charge of the girls, who was few compartments, ahead of us. And I woke her up, and in a very calm voice, I just narrated what happened to me. I told her this happened to me, and there's a man who was on the train who could do this again, and I'm feeling scared. I couldn't even cry. I didn't cry through the incident. I could not. I was just shut off somehow. And she woke up the other male officers who were even senior to her, and they set up patrolling duty for the rest of the night. And basically that is how we slept, but I did not sleep because, of course, who sleeps? Who gets to sleep after such a thing happens to them? So yeah, that was not my first, nor will it be my last. I know there has been many more incidents that have happened to me, which has eventually led me to put traveling long distances in trains. I would rather go by a private vehicle, which is also not safe, unless it's your own, which is also not safe, or by flight. I am scared of sleeping on trains now because of many incidents. That was not the only one which happened. There have been incidents of threats. A guy trying to threaten me eventually, who became my stalker, stalked me for quite a few months. A guy flashing his junk at me on train, on on a dark street, just 200 meters or 100 meters away from my own house, in the dark alleyways, flashing at me, masturbating basically, trying to come close to me. And I was again stunned, and I was calculating if I should, call for help, call for fight back, because that guy who was doing that to me in the dark alleyway, he threatened me, if you make a sound, I will hurt you. And I was calculating, what do I have with me that which I can, if he does anything of that sort. Well, I am not a very strong girl. I mean, I'm a strong girl, but I'm not very strong enough to fight a man off on my own in a spur of a moment. So I was just thinking, what can I do? Do I have my hairpin? Do I have something on me? And those were so many incidents. Groping. My breasts have been groped too many times, even though they are almost non-existent, but that really doesn't matter. Ass has been groped. Too much of it. I mean, like, too much. You just can't even, you walk anywhere, you go anywhere in the crowd, who knows who's gonna grope you and just disappear. And eventually, women like us who have been repeatedly, exposed to such incidents, we go out of the home, step out of the home, prepared that something like this could happen to us. A couple of times when I was in Delhi, and I was waiting alone late at night, waiting for a cab. Some, vehicles, one of them I particularly remember, a big SUV, tinted glasses, the window rolls down, and the guy just gestures to me to get in. And I showed him the middle finger. I did. That's all I could do. I mean, really, what can you do? Because what can you do? Can you go to the police, really, about these matters? Because the police will ask you, why were you out there in the middle of the night alone? Or they will ask me, why are you wearing this and alone in the middle of the night? I mean, come on. These are such baseless questions which police will ask me, and so I would rather just get over the trauma on my own and carry on with life more carefully the next time. So we become trained. Every woman who's watching this probably has been. I hope you have not been, but I know many of you have been exposed to such incidents, and you have become trained in getting on with the trauma and just making yourself steel. Yeah, I don't need to like carry on with that. It would take me the whole day if I had to. So WHO, the World Health Organization, has reported crime against women around the world as an epidemic and a public health issue. And since we are in the middle of a pandemic, you might be able to guess the meaning of what an epidemic is. So pandemic is a disease that spreads across countries, originating from one place and spreads across countries at a very fast rate, and affects a huge population without any discrimination. An epidemic, in fact, in terms of infectious diseases, what we have been taught, I am a public health and epidemiology graduate, master's, so what we have been taught, the definition of epidemiology is a widespread disease or of infectious or non-infectious origin, which happens in a certain area or a community or a place at the same time. Also, gender-based violence against women can be classified as a public health issue because, first of all, public health issue, any issue that affects the mental and physical health, or otherwise the overall well-being of a person, is classified as a public health issue. For example, the air quality of India, especially Delhi, is a public health issue. The water quality, all of that, it's a public health issue because it affects the health. So gender-based violence against women can be classified, even though it's mostly towards women. And yes, I do agree that gender-based violence is also reported in a very small percentage of men who are mostly gay men or trans persons. But if you look at the homicide rates, up to 38 to 40% of women who are subjected to gender-based violence and intimate partner violence are led to be murdered. However, that percentage is only 6 to 8% in men. So this whole issue can be classified as a woman's problem because of the percentage is so high. The statistics are so high amongst women. So it's a public health issue basically because women in our societies, in most societies around the world, are also burdened with the role of being the primary caregiver in the family. Right from the childhood, they are trained in a way, at least in our country, to understand taking care of a household, taking care of other people, giving birth to a child, raising a child, taking care of your future husband. So the woman is the primary caregiver in the family always. And if women are subjected to gender-based violence, which is affecting her mentally, physically, her reproductive health, women especially, there's a high rate of reproductive health problems in women, including STIs, HIV/AIDS, and hormonal issues and everything among women who have been subjected to gender-based violence or sexual violence of any sort. So if the woman is not at her optimum in health, her mental state or her overall well-being is not at its optimum, she is also lacking as a primary caregiver. So the whole family's health will suffer as a whole. I mean, yeah, of course, if the woman, the primary caregiver, is under such stress. So that can, because of all of this, gender-based crimes can be classified mostly as a woman's problem rather than a man's problem. Yes, there are cases against men too, but the statistics are too low to come even to be compared at against the statistics of the woman. So the World Health Organization defines gender-based violence against women or men even, in fact, but mostly for women, as any act of gender-based violence, any act of violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, or mental harm or suffering to women, including threats of such acts, coercion of any kind, even sexual coercion or coercion into any act which the woman is not willing, and the arbitrary deprivation of liberty, whether it's liberty, physical liberty, social liberty, or financial liberty, deprivation of liberty, whether it occurs in the private life, in our homes, or in the public life outside. So that is how WHO defines gender-based violence against women. Oh, sorry. Yes, like I told you before, there are hardly many safe countries, and like I said, Japan and Iceland and the Scandinavian countries are probably considered safer for women as compared to African countries. India is one of the top 5. So gender-based violence against women happens in every form, every imaginable form. When I think of it, when I was taking this course, and actually the course is still ongoing and it is extensive, so I read in one case study that violence against women, they start even before the woman is born. If you are getting the drift, my drift, basically what I'm trying to say is that there is gender selection. So the woman is subjected to violence even in utero, in the womb of the mother. So there's a case report from Mumbai, which is old data, a little old, but not quite, I mean, not very recent, but that's what I have for now, that out of 10,000 abortions that were recorded, only 900 fetuses turned out to be male fetuses. So the rest of the 9,100 fetuses were females. So this is not a coincidence that somehow there were more female fetuses by such a large degree. So yes, there is sex selection, female infanticide. In our country especially, we know that women in most states, many states in fact, you know, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, all of these states, it is preferred to have a boy child rather than have a girl child, because a woman, a girl child, is taken to be a liability because she is raised as somebody else's property. For eons, for centuries, for millennia, women have been treated as property right from the time of the hunters and gatherers, where men had to take the forefront in the scene because of course, hunting, gathering, farming, all of those things. I mean, they had more physical strength, so they took the forefront, and the setup has not evolved. It has stayed the same, basically, and we have carried on with the same patriarchal setup which was built back then in the time. I mean, women were always just looked upon as property to be transferred from the father to the in-laws, the husband, and after, if the husband dies, to the son. So we have never been seen as individuals until now, you know, when, you know, there have been so many feminist revolutions that have happened in the mid-century and mid-20th century, and now when the feminist movement, the Me Too movement, is at its highest, at its peak, we were not seen as individuals, as human beings. Rather, we were seen as property that can be transferred from one place to another, along with money, or in exchange of money, or cattle, or livestock. So marriages have always been as a trade, you know. In our country, we give dowry, okay? In other countries, like in the African countries, the woman is married and the groom gives livestock back to the woman's family. So it's an exchange. It's like an exchange of property. So basically we are looked at as property. And I have gone off track. I don't remember where I was initially. So I was talking about gender-based violence in forms, different forms. So like I said, sex selection before birth is one form, which is really tragic, because where are we even spared? Not even before being born, right? And as you grow up as a young child, young little girl, through your adolescence, you could be subjected to many acts of gender-based violence. You could be sexually abused, you could be trafficked, you could be physically abused, you could be coerced into sexual acts, you could be trafficked, sold off for a price, like a property, for anything. All of that young little girls go through, because the lives of women are not seen as very important in our country, and quite many number of countries, in fact. So as the woman achieves adulthood, we all know what happens to her. Even while she's growing up, she could be forced into an early marriage, which she's absolutely unaware of, or against, which she's completely against, and she could be forced into that marriage, which is also an act of violation against her gender, So women, even in adulthood, are forced into marriages which they have not accepted. They are forced in the name of family honor. They are killed. There are so many cases of honor killing. In the name of family honor, women are killed, burned, raped, buried, cut, and everything in the name of family honor. And in fact, there are Khap panchayats, as you might be aware of. There are groups which have self-declared themselves as the authority of a certain community or a village, Khap panchayats, which are known as, the panchayat system is different, which probably comes under the government, but Khap panchayats are different. They do the moral policing part. So they could just give a death sentence to anybody, and the whole village will have to accept that. And if they have found the woman or the man to be guilty of trying to marry into a lower caste or an upper caste or a different caste or a religion or anything, or a different person who is not of their family's choice, they could be murdered. And we are all aware of that this happens so often. This happens so often in our country. Honor killings, rape, especially by intimate partners. Intimate partner violence is the major form of sexual violence towards women. 1/3 of the reported cases, I will always use the word reported, because many of these cases do not even get to the stage of reporting. It is solved or suffocated, buried, even before the victim can actually go and try to report against it to the law. So many of the cases which are reported as the perpetrators are reported as being intimate partners or somebody they know very closely. So 1/3 of the total case count is generally intimate partners. And the problem why intimate partner violence is so high amongst women is, one, because your partner, if he's of that kind, if he's an abusive partner, he knows your strengths and your weaknesses the best. He knows you the best, your psychology the best. He knows your ability to react to a certain situation the best. He knows how to threaten you. He knows how to coerce you. He knows how to force you, basically, even if he could not coerce you and make you, you know, agreeable to a certain act. That is why there is such a high number of marital rape cases. But unfortunately, in India, there is no law that criminalizes marital rape. So there is one law, which is marital rape law, which comes under the IPC, Indian Penal Code, section 375, but that only applies if you are a minor wife. So to achieve, to seek justice as a married woman who has been raped and undergone marital rape through her husband, you have to be a minor, which means first somebody has to break the Child Marriage Act of 2006, that you cannot marry off a child before the legal ages of 18 and 21 in case of boys. So to seek justice as an adult woman who has been maritally raped, it won't work. Basically, it makes no sense to me. Absolutely. But however, there is an act against domestic violence which was passed in 2005. So marital rape probably comes under domestic violence, but does it justify? How is rape equal to violence, physical violence? There should be a section which should enable a woman to seek justice just on the account of being raped or coerced into rape by her husband, even if it's her husband. So unfortunately, oh yeah, I was talking about the forms of gender violence. So there's physical aggression, physical violence. We see that in so many relationships. There is psychological abuse, gaslighting. You know, there are threats to their life or lives of their children or lives of their near and dear ones, or humiliation in front of other people, or humiliating acts performed in private, forced sex, or controlling behaviors, you know, financial control, social control, basically controlling the liberty of the woman, controlling the voice of the woman, so that she cannot speak up. Being a victim, she cannot speak up and narrate her story and seek justice for it, and acts as stalking, harassing, threatening, and many more, and trafficking, you know, abducting. The list goes on. I mean, this is an endless list in which women can be violated and harmed, basically. It's an endless list. So while I was talking about domestic violence, I must mention that in a study, it was found that Indian women, it was a case study from the same course that I'm taking from Johns Hopkins. In a case study from India, they found out that Indian women, a large percentage of Indian women who are of the middle or lower middle or the below middle class level, believe, or even in certain cases upper classes, believe that being married to a man, by being married to a man, the man gets the right to treat her badly, to inflict violence upon her, and coerce her into sex and demand sex at his will with or without her permission. So women in our country are very unaware of their own rights, apparently. They do not know that they can say no. And if they say no, and if they are subjected to violence, that they can go out and seek their rights. They do not know, basically, that something called women's rights even exists, basically. They do not know that women's rights exists, that supportive groups, supportive communities, like there are many NGOs in India which are women-led NGOs which are doing tremendously wonderful work for victims and survivors of sexual violence and sexually and domestically abused women, such as Pari, Vardhan, Swayam and Rahi and Sakhi. They are doing a great lot of work, but these women, they are not aware, because we women, since the time of our birth, first thing, if a girl child is born in certain communities, in certain states, the parents are absolutely disheartened if they do not have the facility to find out the sex and abort her before, and later they found out that it's a girl child. They are really disheartened, and they might even kill the child after birth, or if they raise the child, they would raise her not equal to a boy child. They would raise her with much less liberty, much less freedom, much less resources, which means spending less on her education, or not at all spending on her education. So such women are mostly trained to become wives of somebody else's and in somebody else's houses. So these women never get the chance to even understand that they have something called women's rights and, you know, human rights in basic, and they don't know that they can seek justice, that there's something which they can go and do. And honestly, yes, women are terrified of seeking justice too, because most of the police system in India is male dominated. Yes, the justice system is male dominated, and women who are already being violated by men will not feel most comfortable going to a male policeman and trying to narrate her story of how she was raped or abused or violated by a certain man or her husband or her in-laws. Yeah, so coming to in-laws, there's a huge problem with dowry, right? Like, women are called Karki Lakshmi. I find it very funny, in fact, Karki Lakshmi. Like, what does that really mean? Does it mean that because she comes into the house married and with dowry, a lot of money and gold or whatever she can bring, is that why she's Karki Lakshmi? I mean, why is she called Karki Lakshmi? Because we are certainly not treated as Goddess Lakshmi. The way they do her puja and all of that, we're certainly not treated that way. We are treated far more inferiorly. We are not allowed to do jobs, even though we are termed as Karki Lakshmi. We are not allowed to go out and earn money or spend money at our own liberty, because we are Karki Lakshmi. So this is also hypocritical. The system, the whole system, the ecological system that has been set up, the societal system that has been set up from millennia, which has been carrying on since centuries, so patriarchal, and is basically now, it seems, quite senseless, because there are so many women who are doing so much better in their lives, who have proven their potential equal to men, if not more, at least. that women can do the same jobs. We are no longer in the age of hunters and gatherers, that we don't need to go and hunt an animal to bring food. We are in a technological age. You know, we are at the age of automation. We are at the age of computers, for God's sake. We don't need physical labor to prove a woman's mettle, that she is also, if not equal, if not better, at least equal to a man. So this whole ecological framework, which works with various power structures, various hierarchical structures, the economical dominance, the societal dominance, the community which the woman lives in, the environment that she lives in, the family that she lives in, and then eventually up to her individual values and what lessons that she's learned and knows and, you know, works on. So there is a whole setup which is, you know, step by step. Everything has been set up since millennia to just suppress women, to somehow not make women be able to speak up for their own rights. Men in India, surprisingly, from another case study that I was going through, believe that if there are more laws which support women's justice, so that women can seek justice for cases of violence against them, or sexual violence, or rape, or any of the sort, men, there has been a survey and it does exist, men believe that men are at the losing end of that if there are more laws which promote female justice, because they are afraid that women will end up misusing men. But dear men, for how many centuries and millennia have you misused us? Why are you afraid of the Me Too movement? Why are you afraid of fast-track courts? Why are you afraid of a woman being able to walk into a police station and just file a report against you? Yes, just like not all of you have been raping us, but just like many, I must say many, who have raped us women, violated us women, there will be some women who might use it against you too, but that is a cost you have to pay. We have to pay as a society to attain a greater cause of safety towards women, because these women who these laws will help are also your sisters, your wives, your mothers, your friends, aren't they? So why are you afraid for that justice, for more laws for women's protection? Why are you against that? I mean, we have chief ministers in this country who openly give press media statements saying that women are not capable of being left alone. What if left alone for the reason that they might end up using their gifts or their talents or their powers into a wrong cause? I hope you know who I am talking about, but I shan't name him. He is a very prolific person who is against women's rights and women's justice in the country. He's a chief minister and he has openly said that about women, and it's in recent news, which came up after the Hathras case, so you can go look it up. It does exist, truly. I mean, a chief minister did say that, believe me.